Hi, this is Supreet, and today I would be talking about how do we connect uh, Microsoft Teams with .NET. Now, there are multiple ways to do this, and one of the way is to have SDKs in your .NET and use it. Now, I'm not talking about SDKs at all. I would be talking about the simple, straightforward way, which is to use Graph API endpoints, right? So now, in order to do that, let's see how uh, the existing design looks like. So, existing design has authentication with team scope. So, every user should be authenticated, and the authentication token should have the team scope. Now, uh, what else do we do? We create payloads. So when you want to send messages to uh, some recipient, you will have to create a payload in order to use an external endpoint. Now, what is this payload about? So let's say you're not trying to send a chat message. So you need to have a chat message payload in order to send chats. Now you have chat detail creation section, and then you ultimately hit an endpoint to create chats. Now once you create chat, you receive chat id, and using that chat id you would be sending and receiving messages. Now you also have error handling and exception management. Now what's new in the new design, new proposal, new system? All these workflow remains the same, but there is a difference in the technology. Now in my use case I was using Java earlier, and then now the requirement was to have the same being achieved in .NET. Now connecting to teams, um, how do we connect to teams? Connecting to teams is done via Graph API endpoints. You have Graph Explorer. If you see this um, website URL, it will take you to Graph Explorer, wherein you can um, you know uh, use your authentication token and then hit the Graph API endpoints. Now, how does this architecture look like? This is an architecture, a design architecture, wherein you have authentication, then you create a payload, and then you check whether there's any pre-existing chat sessions between two individuals to or group. If yes, then get the chat ID and then send message to that specific recipient. If it doesn't exist, then create chat details, then create chats. You get the chat ID and then call the uh, send message. Now all this is done using Graph API endpoint. Now how does the body of creation of chat details look like? So you will have to pass chat type as one to one if you're two individuals, not a group. And then you add this O data type, and then you have this user at O data bind, and then uh, you give your user ID and the recipient user ID, and then hit this endpoint so that the chats would be created. You would receive a chat ID. Now, in order to hit the message endpoint, in a sense, if you want to send messages to the recipient, this is the URL being used, and this is the body sample, wherein you have content type as HTML, and then you have attachments. So attachment is necessary only when you want to send something as an attachment. For example, if I have um, grid grid content, if I want to have um, some content on the screen to be shared. So you add it as an attachment, wherein content type would be adaptive card, and you send the JSON format of that content, and then you will have an attachment ID as well. So it goes as an attachment, as an adaptive card. Okay, so now if you hit this endpoint with this message body, the sample would look like this. I'm not going to show you in that detail. So yeah. Now, what is the proposed solution? Proposed solution looks like this. You have controller, then you have service, wherein all the business logic is involved. You have some helper classes as well, which internally, uh, communicates to HTTP provider, and that HTTP provider finally calls GrahApi endpoints. Now you also have model classes supporting uh, the business logic. Um, Now, what is the difference between these two? Uh, Team service helper and team service. Team service is basically having all the methods um, to uh, achieve objectives like creation of chats, checking of existing chats, creation of message payload, and sending messages. Now, what does this helper have? Helper have all kind of helper methods supporting these functionalities. For example, to create chat, you need a payload, and the creation of the payload looks creation of the payload is done in this service helper class. So this is one of the simplest architecture, and yeah, the controller looks like this, and the service has a method called share to teams, wherein all the business logic is present in this. Now, all the helper methods is dumped into the helper interface, and HTTP provider, of course, looks like this. So this has get async and post async. Post async will call HTTP client's post method. Same goes for get async as well. Now all those registration has been dumped into a separate class, and this has been registered in startup.cs. Um, yeah. Now we also have error handling, as I said. So in case if you have errors, the output looks like this. So this is one of the examples wherein the invalid token has been passed and we encounter an error. So we bind it to error model and then display it. All right, so this is it. Um, so this is just an example to show how do we integrate MS Teams with .NET. Thank you.